Hello students, this is Science, Chapter 2, from page 170 until 173. That's the page. Open that page, let's start science. Let's talk about heat this time. Heat is something that makes things hotter. Heat is something that makes things hotter. That's very simple and straightforward. On a sunny day, heat comes from the sun. Where do we get heat? From the sun. Heat comes from the sun. It warms the soil. That means it makes the soil hot. The water, air, and living things. Heat that comes from the sun makes the soil, the water, the air, and the living things, including humans. It makes them hotter. What can cause heat? Some things that can cause heat: rubbing. Rubbing can cause heat. Rubbing produces heat. That means if you rub your hands together, you can feel that it's getting hotter. It produces heat. Also, burning fuel produces heat. Burning fuel produces heat. What is fuel? Fuel means oil, gas, and wood. Anything that you can burn and get heat from it, that is called fuel. Alright, so fuel means oil, gas, and wood. Let's move on. Here we have two questions. What is heat? Heat is something that makes things hotter. We talked about this. Let's go to the second question. How do people produce heat? People can produce heat in many ways. For example, you could rub your hands. This way you can produce heat. Also, you can burn fuel. This way you can produce heat. So we have two ways that we can produce heat: by rubbing your hand, also by burning fuel. Now let's talk about temperature. What is a temperature? Temperature is a measure. It is measuring. Measuring what? Temperature is a measure of how hot or cold something is. How do you know something is hot? How do you know something is cold? Without touching it. Without touching it. How do you know something is hot or cold? You can know by using a thermometer, and when you measure it, you call that temperature. So temperature is a measure of how hot or cold something is. You can know how hot or cold something is through the temperature. So temperature is a measure of how hot or cold something is. If something is hot, hot objects have high temperature. If something is hot, that means it has a high temperature. If something is cold, that means the object have low temperature. The objects have low temperature. So hot objects have high temperature, but cold objects have low temperature. Now let's go to a thermometer. A thermometer is a tool. It is a tool. A tool means a device, something that you can use. Okay, so thermometer is a tool to measure the body temperature, and it is measured in Celsius. Alright, so thermometer is a tool to measure your body temperature. If you want to know your body temperature, you can use a thermometer. You can use a thermometer, and temperature is measured in Celsius. Alright, the temperature of boiling water is 100 Celsius. Alright, so if you want to know what is the temperature of a boiling water, it is 100 Celsius. And the temperature of freezing water is 0 Celsius. Alright, 0 Celsius. 0 Celsius. The temperature of freezing water is 0 Celsius. Okay, let's go to the summary. Here we have heat is something that makes things warm. We said that heat is something that makes things warm. People produce heat by burning kinds of fuel. Heat is used to cook food, and heat houses and water. Okay, the temperature is a measure of how hot or cold something is. A thermometer is used to measure temperature. Thermometer is something used to measure temperature. Alright, that's pretty much all for our lesson. I'll see you in class and we will talk about this in detail. and we will have some questions. We will answer the questions. Alright, thanks for listening. This is Daban Muhammad, and that's our science lesson. Have a good time.